I was pulling up to the same shady area that the crackware shitting incident took place. Everything was about as normal as things could be for this job. I hopped out of my truck and was making a reach for the leaf blowers when I heard a noise behind the building. It sounded like glass bottles breaking against the pavement. I instantly thought, great, some teenage pukes are fucking up my property. Thinking that I was in for some primetime fun, I eased the truck around the corner, killed the lights, and got back out. I grabbed my trusty tire iron just in case and went for a look-see. Expecting to scare off some punks, I dashed from behind a dumpster. Well, instead of finding a group of teenagers, I found short guy dressed like a trying to get into the back door of the Christian Teen Center. For some reason Hudson Hawk over there didn't see me. Now, it should be noted that I had been playing way too much Splinter Cell at home. I ducked around to the next dumpster and skirted behind the guy. I was closing in from about 10 yards when my foot crunched on a shard of glass. Shit. The turns around very slowly, and we just stare at each other for what seemed like forever. I finally got my wits about me and shouted the only thing I could think of. Freeze, scumbag. Who did I think I was, TJ Hooker? The guy is blocked to his left by a dumpster and an AC unit on the right. I was standing in the way of escape. The guy makes a charge and the fight is on. He lands a shoulder into my chest, trying to pull a spin move to get around me. I rear back and jam the handle of the tire iron under his ribsage. Oof. And just like that, the fight was off. He crumpled to the ground like a sack of potatoes. I rolled him over and put a knee into his chest and take off the ski mask. Get the fuck off of me, no way, Cockstain. I was using full force to keep this guy down. Eventually he just resigned when I threatened to strangle him. You a cop? Nope. You just got busted by a street sweeper. How does that make you feel? Apparently it didn't make him feel too good. Get the fuck off of me. I reached in my back pocket and grabbed my phone. By this point in the job, I had Bryce on speed dial. Bryceman, go. You need to get to crossings. I've got a robber pinned behind the store. Be there in 2, I'll try to get you some backup sooner. Hurry it up, this guy is pissed. Hangs up and looks at the perp. Aren't ya, sweetheart? He started struggling again, so I knocked his head into the asphalt. Stop struggling. I'll kill you. Wham. Stop struggling. I'm going to slit your goddamn throat. Wham. Motherfucker, look. I don't have any qualms about beating you to death. I'll claim self-defense and be a hero. Stop struggling. You're fucking nuts. Wahahaha. Yes. I am. The look of fear in this guy's eye is something I'll never forget. Well, the cavalry showed up with lights and siren blasting. Bryce and crew drew down on us and told me it was okay to roll off of him and step back. They picked the guy up and a cute switchblade and a baggie fall out of his back pocket. Oh. Someone just racked up more charges. That guy assaulted me. I want him arrested. The cops look at him and pause. Wahahahaha. Good one. Get in the fucking car. I had to stay and give a statement and made Bryce promise me that I wouldn't have to testify or go to court or any other bullshit. I looked at my watch. I still had an entire night's worth of work in front of me. Hard to kill. I've mentioned before about the quality of our equipment. The trucks, like an old loyal workhorse that had seen better days, were ready to be put out to pasture. This is the story of the last night of my favorite truck. May she rest in peace. I was doing my sweeperly duties when I decided to start blowing off the curbs. I threw the truck in park, hopped out, and went to it. I started working when I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. The truck was moving without me in it. It had a slight lead on me, so I dropped the leaf blowers and ran after it. Throwing open the door, jumped in, and threw it back at park. You see, the truck had a nasty habit of slipping out of park and into drive. No big deal, I just parked it and engaged the e-brake. Problem solved. I finished with the leaf blowers, hopped into the truck, and hauled some ass to finish up the property. Well, somewhere in the middle of hauling and ass, the control arm broke, thus locking the steering in the hard left position, sending the truck in circles. You have got to be fucking kidding me. I said to no one in particular. I radioed in about the problem. You're not going to believe this, I'll believe anything once. You were propositioned by a tranny, I believed that. Not the time, Pop. What's the problem? The damn steering in the truck is out. I'm going to need to get a lift back to the shop. Alright, try to find a space you can leave it, I'll be there in 20. I hit the gas and tried to heave the wheel over, but no dice. I tried one more time, when my night got a little worse. The truck wasn't stopping. Turns out the accelerator was stuck at about 15 miles an hour. I was now doing low-speed donuts in a street sweeper. But the fun just didn't stop. In the space of 30 seconds, I broke the door handle and snapped the key off in the ignition. I knew that the sourdough burger I had had a scant hour previous was going to come up in a big way. But suddenly, a moment of clarity hit me. This was my truck's swan song. After this, there would be no more. So I did the only thing I could for my poor truck. I let her go out with a bang. I wretched on the throttle control for the blower motor, pulled it out to the point it broke in the full-on position. I slammed the e-brake, which barely ever worked, stopping long enough to grab my shit and bail out. I got back on the radio. You better get here if you want to see the show. What's going on? You'll see. Oh. You'll see. My next call was to Bryce. By this point, the e-brake was screaming, smoking, and about to let go. Do you have time to kill? Gee, let me check with Mr. Clancy here. Yes. I do. Meet me over here. I'm having a funeral for my truck. There in 5. I pulled a Coke out of my bag, popped it open, and had a seat on the asphalt. The brake let go, and the truck resumed its spiral into oblivion. Since the blower motor taps off of the main fuel line, and this was the last stop for the night, it would be a matter of 45 minutes before she was dry. Mike finally showed up. Cool. Tossing him a Coke, I know, right? I'd say this is it for the old girl I know. Bryce was the next to show up. This is the most awesome thing I've ever seen. Have a Coke. This is the last show for the girl. Damn good truck. Damn good. And it went on like that for 40 minutes. 3 men standing there, sipping a Coke, and just watching the old girl whine out her last ballad. Eventually, the blower motor let go, sending smoke pouring out of the rear stack. The old girl finally ran out of gas and sputtered to a stop, hidden behind a cloud of steam and smoke. She let out a rattling gasp. And just like that, she was gone. I lit a cigarette and threw a salute. That'll do, girl. That'll do. Thanks for keeping my son safe all those long nights. Thanks for all of the laughs. And I'll admit it. I got a little teary-eyed. Thanks. For everything. Postscript, we called the company wrecker, and they picked up the truck. That week, she was stripped for parts and sent to a scrap heap. She died like she lived, fast, hard, and on fire. Hard to kill. I'm not what you were expecting. Part 4. Summer was winding down, and the fall was cranking back up. I walked into the apartment after work to find Jen there sitting at the table. Morning, beautiful. Let me grab a shower, and I'll get to work on some breakfast. We need to talk. It wasn't a statement more than it was the tone. It was like all of the air was sucked out of the room. What's wrong? I. And she started crying. She explained that her mom was ill and that she needed to go back to Florida to take care of her siblings. She said it was looking like it was going to be a long time before she would be back up here. She kept saying that she loved me so much and she didn't know what I would say. I told her that family is important. I told her as much as I would miss her, she needed to be with her family. Nothing could make me stop loving her. The truth is that it tripped my fucking guts out. Over and over. She was headed out in a few days. I helped her pack the old VW, and we were standing out in her driveway. Call me when you get out on the road. And when I get home, and every day she wrapped her arms around me, kissed me long and sweet, and looked me dead in the eye with that smile. I love you. And with tears streaming down her face, she got into the car and started it up. Before she pulled out, she stole a line from the movie Castaway and shouted, "I'll be right back." I drank myself into oblivion that night. Bruiser, 1. Emo kids, 0. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, that's no lie. I tend to keep to myself when I'm out on the job, not causing much trouble, just doing my thing. There's only a few things that will set me off. 1. If you talk down to me. 2. If you do something that knowingly impairs my job and or makes fun of me. These children did both. These children paid dearly. I was working in a particularly rich part of town and almost finished for the night when I witnessed 4 or 5 emo kids walking out of the grocery store. Now, I'm not up on my social stereotypes. Simply put, I call it like I see it, coach. These teenagers were wearing very tight hooded sweatshirts, hoods up with graphics advertising some band I had never heard of. They wore jeans that were purchased from the women's department store. Footwear consisted of Converse sneakers spray painted various colors and written on in marker. Hair? Uncut and in an emo/which, by consequence, is a double entendre. I stopped to let them through on the crosswalk and they just stood there. Staring at me. Laughing. Pointing. Now, I don't really care what people think of me. In fact, I would say that I could really give not only 1, but 2 shits about what these teens thought of me. But they decided to go a step further. They threw an entire bag of fast food garbage down on the pavement. Right in front of me. Fuck you. Oh hell no. I revved the engine and started to pop the truck at them. A look of sheer terror crossed their faces. I love that look. It's that look of what the fuck did we just do? Because what I've found is that most people don't think you'll do anything. They just assume that you will tolerate that kind of behavior and pick it up because, hey, you're the hired help. My buddy served 2 tours in Iraq driving M1A1s on the outskirts of Baghdad manning the 50 cal. In our emails back and forth, I mentioned that I can now appreciate what he does a little bit more because of the amount of dust that gets kicked up into your eyes. When he came home, he presented me the goggles that he wore as a gift. I used those goggles to keep the dust out of my eyes every night, and they're still a sentimental thing to me. I leaned my head out of the window, turned my ball cap backward, and pushed the goggles over my eyes. They thought I was fucking nuts. Little did they know, I was. They started to run across the huge parking lot, but constricted by the tight pants they loved so much, they made an easy prey. For some reason, the voice of a National Geographic narrator popped into my head. The sweeper culls his prey from the pack. I was starting to lose my mind. I caught up to them because these idiots didn't understand the idea of zigging and zagging. I then performed a textbook dust-off, i.e. separating the hopper from the intakes just enough to let forth a cloud of dust equal to, if not surpassing, a biblical plague. I zipped by them at a brisk 40 miles an hour, dusting them out and leaving them coughing and rubbing their eyes behind me. I swung back around, shut down the truck, and in goggles and all bellowed at the top of my lungs, "And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who would attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee." The few patrons in the parking lot started applauding me. I took a bow, flipped off the still coughing teenagers, and roared off into the night. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.